Good morning, guys. Welcome to Walking Boxing, Wednesday, October the 2nd, 2024. And we're on Janibek watch this morning. He's supposed to arrive in Australia this morning, being Wednesday, and the fight is in 2 days' time. So while we're all still trying to get our heads around that, let's hope that he at least turns up, and then the rest is up to him. Reports I did look into, though, are that George Rose, or No Limit, did actually try and get him to Australia a lot earlier, but for whatever reason, Janibek has either decided to come this close to the fight, or he couldn't get here before this date, whatever. I think it's the former. I think that he's chosen to get here a little bit later than usual. Maybe he just doesn't rate Mikhailovich. I don't know, but he's truly bizarre. I still, like I said, I can't get my head around the fact that a world champion gets to a country 15 hours away on a plane the day before the weigh-in. Doesn't make sense, especially with someone that didn't make weight back in July when he had the heat of Las Vegas, and also a full training camp to get the job done. So we will watch with bated breath today. First that he gets here, and then that he actually makes weight, and then performs on the night. So, and also we're on undercard watch as well. Still haven't seen anything apart from Shannon O'Connell and Maya Motu. A little bit of a mouthful, that one, or a tongue twister. So let's just keep an eye out today. You would think that when he arrives in Australia, it would be straight to a press conference, I'm assuming. I'm sure that even though it's probably judged on the time frame and the lack of undercard and the location and all that sort of stuff, it doesn't really rate high on No Limit's list of priorities this year. That's pretty obvious, but still, he still wants some press coverage about it. So let's just see what happens. Maybe Janibek gets off the plane and says, yeah, that's great, but I'm going to the hotel to rest, and then I'm going to try and get some weight off. Who knows? But it's a very, very interesting and unusual build up to a fight. I'm sure you can agree. All right, some other things that are going on at the moment. I'm going to talk about the TV in a sec, but I did see this morning that, I know it's not a big thing for probably us here in Australia, but if you watch YouTube a bit, you'll probably watch Pro Box TV. Interesting that they do little club shows in the States, and if you're not familiar with Pro Box TV, which I'm sure you are, they've got the YouTube channel where they, Paul Menardi, Tim Bradley, Sean Porter, who else they have on there? Chris Algieri. Sorry, he's easy to forget, poor old Chris. But it's a really good YouTube show, and if you don't watch it, make sure you do. Very, very informative, and they tell it the way it is. I like it. But they do little club shows in the States, and now they're branching out into the UK. So they've hooked up with the Conlon brothers over there. You know Michael Conlon, of course. A very, very good fighter. He's the one that gave the bird to the judges at the Olympics as well. So, and I've actually met him before. Really, really nice guy. And now he's a promoter with his brothers, and or brother, I think it is. And they're going to hook up with Pro Box TV and do the same thing in the UK. What I like about the Pro Box TV concept is it's not really a promotional firm. They're a TV channel, YouTube channel, whatever it might be. I think it's actually more of a TV channel that they have a YouTube show, so, and do the promotions. But they are a TV channel first, a promoter second, and all they're worried about or interested in is just 50-50 fights, good quality fights, not necessarily building fighters up or getting behind a fighter or investing in a fighter. They just put together the absolute best fights they can. So there probably needs to be a little bit more of that. So I just saw that and thought, well, that's good. I'm glad there's promoters out there that are sort of looking after the underbelly of boxing and not just interested in the big guys. So good luck to the Pro Box TV guys. While I was actually looking through some of the things this morning as well online, I'll just briefly or quickly tell you about it. There's a fighter, Chris Van Heerden. Now, he's a South African fighter. Again, I was lucky enough to meet him, where were we, when we were in Canada for Shannon O'Connell's fight with Sandy Zagoras, I think her name was. So really, really nice guy. Now, he was telling his story online that his wife is Russian. Okay, so they were in Istanbul New Year's Eve last year, and she's Russian, as I said, and she donated $50 to the Ukrainian, or a Ukrainian charity. Now, it would have been seen as maybe harmless at the time. I'm sure a lot of you people out there have donated to causes in Ukraine, whatever it might be. That's up to you. But being a Russian citizen, I don't even know how it happened, but she was caught and accused of treason towards Russia for donating $50 to Ukraine. So that is bizarre. Now, she's actually a dual citizen of the US. Chris Van Heerden must be South African, but also now a US citizen. They live there. And now they're trying to get her out. She faces, I think it's 12 years prison for donating $50 to the Ukrainian cause because she's Russian. So I know it's not, headline news today in the boxing world, but I just come across it and thought, wow, that is pretty crazy. And apparently the Americans, I think she's been a US citizen for 3 or 4 years or whatever, but the US are now trying to do a prisoner swap to get her off the hook, and the Russians aren't taking calls. So yeah, so if this doesn't go well for Chris and his wife, I think she's his fiance, sorry, that she could spend 12 years in a federal prison in Russia for donating $50 to quote unquote the enemy. So yeah, not great there. All right, so on to the boxing news, and in yesterday's video, if you've seen it, I just wanted to just quickly discuss the state of Australian boxing, whether it be the up and coming boxers, but also the networks. Now, I think it was old mate Big J said on Talking Boxing on Monday night that he heard that the PBS, the Premier Boxing Series, won't be around in excuse me, it's a little bit windy and cold today, runny nose, won't be around in 2025. Now, I really hope that Big J is wrong on this occasion, because I think the cards this year have been absolutely fantastic. And I think it's what's been good about it is, like any business, you need competition. And No Limit, as great as they've been, I thought the No Limit on Fox shows have really been lacking. They've had some pretty good fights on there, don't get me wrong, but the quality of the event, the venues they've had them at, the lack of sort of atmosphere there, lack of crowds, just they've been pretty blasé. And I'm not having a real crack at No Limit about it, because they've got lots of other things going on outside of those small little shows. They've got all the pay-per-views, they've got their fighters fighting overseas in big events, so I get it. And that's why I really welcome the fact they've, and I've said on here before, jumped on board with guys like Will Tomlinson at Wild Fighter and worked with them so they can do the bulk of the promotion. And No Limit can sort of piggyback along with that without doing all that really hard groundwork, even to the point of doing the matchups and just being a promoter. It's tough, but and especially if you're in Sydney and the shows are in Melbourne or whatever it's going to be. So I really welcome that. But in this instance, like with Premier Boxing Series coming about, I think it's great for, as I said, the competition side of things, because it made No Limit look at their model and make decisions like outsourcing to other promotional firms like Wild Fighter to improve their product. But on the other side, just with the standalone shows, Premier Boxing Series, as always, Anzo DiCarlo behind the events, so you always know you're going to get great fights. But I think all the shows, some have been more high profile as far as fighters goes than others. But overall, even with the ones that probably have fighters that aren't really known to a lot of boxing fans, the fights themselves have been, in my opinion, very, very high quality, 50-50 fights, and all well attended. Atmosphere looks great, a really good production of the whole thing. I think there is actually one on October 12th. I see that Jalen Tate and Ben Mahoney are on that card, so that should be a really, really good card. But I think it's great not only for the product itself with the Premier Boxing Series, but as I said, also it's made No Limit lift their game as far as the No Limit on Fox shows goes as well. So I really hope they are around next year, because I just think it's been great for boxing fans. It's free, remember. All you got to have is the Premier Boxing, not the Series app, it's the 7+ app. So I'm not sure why, if it is correct what Big J is saying, that 7+, I'm not sure how their executives could sit down with the guys at Premier Boxing Series and actually throw any shade on it. I really don't. I mean, they've got the, not that I've watched it very often, but the other show, is it Through the Ropes or whatever I think it's called? It's a standalone TV show as well. They get boxers on there and a panel, and it's really, really well done. So I think 7plus / Premier Boxing Series have really filled that void here in Australia that we've had for so long, of having just free to air quality fights, the TV shows on the side of it. I think it's been great. Not everyone has Foxtel or KO. I know most people do these days, but not everyone. And I just think it's been really good for those boxing fans that maybe don't have that. And even if they do, just some variety, just something to change it up, and more and more boxing all the time. I mean, at one stage there during the year, it seems like we're having fight nights sort of every week, which is fantastic because this is what they get in the States. And it was just great to have here in Australia. And then you throw in some of the Tasman fighter DAZN fights. I know they haven't had many, but there's been a couple in there. Stan have had a couple as well through their affiliates. So I think all in all, the TV portion of Australian boxing this year has been the best it has ever been. And I said in one of the videos last week that I did that I think this is the best year of best year boxing Australian boxers have ever had, if that makes sense. Australian boxing, this is the best year ever as far as the fighters that have been fighting in big fights all over the world. And the TV, I think, has gone along with it. So I hope we don't lose that portion of it by having the PBS go away next year. Now, I might just be jumping the gun. There might be absolutely no truth to this story, but knowing Big J, he has got his nose in there, and he knows lots of people. So yeah, if he's saying it, there might just be a little bit of smoke there, but let's hope we don't have the fire, because I really enjoyed the PBS this year, along with No Limit on Fox and along with DAZN and everything else. All right, one more thing I want to do, guys, is go over just some of the peripheral fighters that are on the outskirts and where I sort of think they are at the moment. I'm just going to bring up my screen here, so I'll go past a cement truck because Neil just won't budge. Just give me a sec. Has to go past the cement truck, doesn't he? Now, I just want to go over a few fighters that are just on the outside. I mean, we always talk about the big guns and what they're doing overseas, but I want us just to have a look at where we're at outside that with a few of the boxers. We might just go through a few and then go through a few more tomorrow if we run out of time. I don't want to be sort of taking up all your day, but we'll start just with the heavyweight division. Now, of course, we've got Justice Huni, sort of gone missing to some extent, but I think it's got a lot more to do with the fact that he just can't get that quality fight. So it has, but I have heard that he might be on a Riyadh card at the end of the year. So I think Justice is really on the up. I think he will hit all the ranking bodies very, very soon, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see Justice making some big roads, mainly on those Riyadh cards. So I'm really happy for Justice. Yes, he's got a little way to go. He's only had, what, 9 or 10 fights, if that, I think. So I know he's got a bit to learn. Has looked a little bit shaky in a couple of his fights, but he really had a good win over Troy Pilcher a couple of months back, I think it was. I know Troy Pilcher's not exactly Daniel Dubois or Alexander Usyk, but still he got a win under his belt, and I've got big hopes for Justice in that he gets some big fights down the track, and he's also under a good management team in Tasman Fighter, so I'm sure he'll get some opportunities there. But outside Justice, the only sort of heavyweights I think would be on the peripheral of what's going on would be Dempsey McKean. Now, Dempsey's an interesting one. He hasn't fought since, I think, August last year when he was stopped by Filip Hrgovic. And there's been really nothing said about him since. He's almost like dropped off the face of the earth. So I know he's probably working in the gym, working on his deficiencies, working on different things to improve himself and give himself a better opportunity next time he gets a chance. So let's hope he's back, because he's a talented guy, again, with good management behind him. So I'm sure he'll be back, but it is odd that it's been over a year now and we haven't heard a peep from Dempsey. Now, outside of that, I suppose you could look at Joseph Goodall. Look, Big Joe's a really, really nice guy, has got some ability, but if I'm being honest, I don't see him having what it takes to really have a crack at the world scene. He did have that fight with what was his name? I think it was a Nigerian boxer. What was his name? Jagbeer, whatever his name was, and was stopped in that fight quite easily. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure Joe's going to be able to maybe get back on the world stage, but we'll see with him. And outside that, I mean, it drops away pretty quick. There's not really anyone, I don't think, that's sort of coming through. We'll quickly have a look at Super Cruiser. No, there's nothing in there. Now the cruiserweights. Now this is an interesting one. We might do the cruiserweights and light heavyweights, and we'll do some others tomorrow. But of course, there's Jai Patai. He's the big dog, not only in Australian boxing but world boxing as far as cruiserweight goes. But I really like a young kid, Luke Modini. Now again, a long way to go. He's only a young kid, only had a handful of fights, but I really like his, well, what I've seen so far. I think he's a good young kid, strong, he can punch, and looks like he's got, excuse me again, a lot of ability. So, and in good management hands as well. So I think outside the top dogs in that division, I think that Luke Modini has got a real opportunity to knock on the door in future years. But again, only a young guy, very inexperienced, but I think out of the cruiserweights in Australia, he's probably the only one. I mean, Jason Waitley, again, hasn't fought since he was stopped. Who did he get stopped by? Escapes me now, but it's been probably a couple of years since he's fought as well. So he was probably the other hope they had at cruiserweight. Potentially there was a talk about him fighting Jai Patai even. So we'll see what happens with Jason. Again, I'm not quite sure he's going to, I hate to say it, have what it takes at that real world level. So an asterisk beside him, and apart from that, not really. I mean, you got Austin Akuso, Paulo Akuso's brother, but not much coming through after that that you would say could make a move on the world scene. So cruiserweight's Luke Modini for me. All right, so light heavyweight, of course, we've got the two, Connor Wallace and Paulo Akuso, of obviously the two coming through that are on the verge of, well, not so much actually Paulo Akuso at the moment, because who knows where he's at. Connor Wallace will probably get his shot at a world title in the next sort of 12 to 18 months. Depends, of course, what happens with Beterbiev and Bivol and Morel and Benavides and a few of the others. So, but I think Connor Wallace is really, well, he's already there. So outside of Connor, Paulo Akuso for me is the one. The problem with Paulo Akuso though is he's left no limit. I think he's absolutely nowhere as far as management, promotional firms, getting any exposure whatsoever to the boxing public. I think whoever advised him to leave No Limit probably should be let go, because he might have had his issues with No Limit. Maybe he thought he was a little bit more valuable to them than maybe he really was. I don't know the circumstances, but the facts are that he left the biggest promotional firm in Australia with the most contacts, and just sort of done the old Homer Simpson and stepped back into the grass hedge, really, hasn't he? So I'm not quite sure where Paulo's at. All the ability in the world. This guy has the ability, in my opinion, to not just fight for a world title, but win a world title. That's how talented he is. So he's the one on the peripheral coming through that I have my money on. But outside probably those two, not really much. I mean, you could throw Rowan Murdoch at light heavyweight or super middleweight, I suppose, but really the only one I see coming through there would probably be Clay Waterman, and he's probably got a long way to go as well. So and then of course we've got some Olympians coming through, but yeah, Clay Waterman outside of Paulo Akuso and Connor Wallace are probably the ones. So we'll just do those ones today, guys. It's probably been a long video as it is, so we might just go through the different weight divisions each day and just see again who outside of the main ones we hear all about that are on the verge of world titles or have world titles, the next sort of batch coming through, and who from Australia might be the next one to make the world scene. So guys, I hope you have a great day. It is beautiful here in the Macedon Ranges. I'm going to enjoy the Wednesday. Again, be on Janibek watch today, and we'll see what happens with him. But guys, have a great day, and we'll catch you tomorrow.